Your gut is a garden, not literally, but sort of. You've got flowers and you've got weeds, good bugs and bad bugs, and they're competing for the same space, same soil, same nutrients. And here's the thing, you can't have both thriving at once. If the flowers take up all the space, the weeds can't grow. If the weeds take over, the flowers die. You decide which ones get fed. I didn't think about it like that 2 years ago. I was just eating whatever, mostly UPFs, and my gut was, well, a weed patch basically. Then I started feeding the flowers, fermented foods, 30 plants per week, whole foods, non-UPF. 18 months later, the weeds barely show up anymore. Nicola Segata, one of the leading gut health researchers in the world, uses this garden analogy to explain how your microbiome actually works. Good bugs and bad bugs competing for ecological space. So today I'm sharing what happened when I started gardening my gut and what Nicola's research explains about why it worked. 2 years ago my gut was a mess. Not diagnosed with anything, no IBS, no Crohn's, just frequent upset stomachs, bloating by mid-afternoon, low energy. Thought it was normal. Turns out I was feeding the weeds. Meal deals, biscuits, crisps, ready meals, almost all ultra processed. High sugar, high saturated fat, all the things that bad bugs love. And they were thriving, taking up space, elbowing out the good ones. Then I did a 21-day fast and came out the other side. And during refeed, I thought, let's see what happens if I just feed the good stuff. I did some fermented foods, not many. Chutneys on crackers was swapped for kimchi and sauerkraut, just to see. I actually loved it. Tangy, sharp, fizzy, and my gut really did not complain, which was nice. Later on, I went a bit mad and made 20 jars of fermented foods in 1 week. Kimchi variations, sauerkraut, all bubbling away in the cupboard. My kitchen was chaos. I'm not the cleanest cook. I can mess things up just by looking at them, but somehow it worked. And it's taken forever to eat them. But I did, and I'm still making my own 6 months on. I started tracking plants 30 per week, vegetables, fruit, nuts, seeds, herbs, spices, legumes, whole grains. All of it counts. 2 years ago, I was eating what came on a Big Mac, so a bit of lettuce and onion. 5 plants a week at best. Now it's 30 every week. And here's what I noticed. The weeds stopped showing up. Upset stomachs used to be weekly. Now it's every few months, if that. Bloating, gone. Gone. Used to happen most days. 3 o'clock, not feeling great, uncomfortable. Now nothing. And my energy is so much steadier. Not bouncing between highs and lows, more level across the day. Which sounds boring, but actually it's brilliant. I can't prove it's the fermented foods and the 30 plants. I can't measure which bugs I've got now versus what I had then. I don't have a microbiome test, but the timeline lines up. 18 months of feeding the flowers and the weeds barely show up anymore. So why did feeding differently make such a difference? Nicola Segata is one of the world's leading microbiome researchers, and he explains it perfectly. He's been studying gut bacteria for years. He works with Tim Spector at Zoe, and together they've published research on 34,000 people's microbiomes in Nature. And here's what they say about good bugs versus bad bugs. It's a balance. It's an equilibrium. There is only so much ecological space in the gut. And if you have enough of the good bugs, there is no space for the bad bugs. That's the garden analogy. Flowers and weeds competing for space. Bad bugs love junk food. They love ultra-processed stuff. High sugar, high saturated fat. They're really easy to please. They'll eat anything. Good bugs are pickier. They want fibre. They want diversity. They want fermented foods. They want a minimum of 30 different plants per week. So when I was eating almost all UPFs 2 years ago, I was feeding the weeds and they were taking over. No specimens left for the flowers. And then I switched. Some fermented foods, whole foods, plant diversity. And I started feeding the flowers and the flowers squeezed out the weeds. That's what Nicola's research explains. It's not that I killed the bad bugs. They're still there, just smaller numbers, not enough to cause problems because the good ones took up all the space. Now here's the thing people get wrong. Bad bugs aren't evil. They're just opportunistic. They're not trying to make you ill. They're not villains. They're just doing what bugs do. Eating whatever's available. Growing wherever there's space. If you feed them junk food, they will thrive because that's what they like. And when they thrive, they push out the good ones. But if you stop feeding them, if you cut the UPFs and start feeding whole foods instead, they shrink because they've got nothing to eat and the good bugs take over. It's not about declaring war on bad bugs, it's about choosing which ones you want to feed. Simple as that. So what do you actually do with this? Here's what I'd suggest, and this is what worked for me, not what I'm prescribing. This week, identify your weeds. Track which UPFs you eat most often. Not all of them, just the ones that show up every day. For me, it was crisps and chocolate. For you, it might be biscuits after dinner. Crisp with lunch, cereal for breakfast, ready meals 3 times per week. Whatever it is, write it down. Just notice. Don't judge. Don't change anything yet. Just notice. By the end of the first week, you'll have a list. 3 to 5 things that you eat regularly that are ultra processed. Pick one, the easiest one to cut, the one you won't miss too much, and cut it for 7 days. See what happens. Don't replace it with another UPF. Replace it with something real, whole food, something that say came out of the ground or off a tree or from an animal. If you cut meal deal sandwiches, replace them. I know, homemade soup, salad with leftover chicken, crackers with cheese and kimchi. If you cut biscuits out after dinner, replace them with a handful of nuts. An apple, natural yogurt with berries. Real food, not packaged, not processed. That's it. 1 weed, 7 days. Feed the flowers. Starve the weeds. Do that for 7 days and see what your gut tells you. If it's anything like mine, you'll notice, not overnight, but certainly by day 5 or 6, calmer, steadier, less reactive. If this makes sense, in the 14-day rhythm reset, there is a part of the guide that talks about microbiome and covers how to identify your weeds, which flowers to plant, and fermented food recipes that actually work. The link's in the description. Please grab it. Quick disclaimer, this is educational content only. It's not medical advice. If you're thinking about changing your diet or you've got existing health conditions, speak to your GP first, especially if you're on medication. That's it. Feed the flowers, starve the weeds. I'll see you in the next one.